I'm Hannah. I'm a tutor at Sky Academy, and we are in the topic of measurement within the Year 11 standard course, and we're looking at measurement and energy, which comes under MSM1. So in this video, we're going to have a look at what significant figures are. So significant figures are often used to round numbers up to a specific value. So they may ask you to round to two significant figures. And so if you have a number like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you need to round this number up to two significant figures. So when we think of two significant figures, we can almost think of two place values. So we only want the first two place values or the first two figures of that number in our answer. And we will replace the rest of them with zeros. So if we were to keep only the first two place values or the first two significant figures in the number, we have to look at the third number and we think, do we round up? And if it's over 5 or above, you round up. If it's below 5, you don't. So because 3 is below 5, we're not going to round up our 4. So we're going to leave our 4. So our two significant figures will be 5, 4. And then we replace the rest of the numbers with zeros. So we'll add 1, 2, and 3 zeros. So that is writing 54,321 to two significant figures as 54,000. So it's just an easy way to condense numbers or to write them to a specific value. However, when we're doing this, there are some rules that we need to be aware of. So we do include zeros in our significant figures that are in between two numbers. So if we are asked to round or say how many significant figures are in that number, we would say that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 significant figures in this number. Some people may say there is only 4 because they would not count 0 as a number. But if a 0 is in between two numbers, so in this case 0 is in between 6 and 9, it is considered a significant figure. So we do have to count it. So if we were asked to round this to 3 significant figures, we would have to consider the fourth number, which is 9. If it's a 5 or above, we round up. So we do have to round up. So our thing would be 5, 6, 1, and then we replace the last two numbers with zeros. And that's rounding to 3 significant figures. So we do have to include the 0 as a significant figure if it's in between two numbers. We also do include zeros that are after numbers. So for example, this number here, 150,000, we would say that there are 6 significant figures in this number. So if we were asked to round to 1 significant figure, we would only consider the first one and we would write the rest as zeros. But remember, we do have to round up. And so if this is 5 or above, we round up. And because it is 5 or above, we will round it up to 2, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So this number has 6 significant figures. And if we were to round it off to only 1 significant figure, that would be our answer, 200,000. However, we do not include zeros that are before any numbers. So for example, we do not include that as a significant figure and we do not include that 0 as a significant figure. So this number, 0.087, would only have 2 sig figs, 8 and 7, because we do not count zeros that are before the numbers. That's when we're dealing with a decimal, and the same thing applies when we're dealing with a whole number. We wouldn't count the 0 normally, we would just call this 567, and so we do not count the 0 when we're dealing with sig figs either. So we can ignore that and say that there are 3 sig figs in that number. So there's some rules that we need to be aware of when we're dealing with sig figures. So a question, when you're answering questions regarding significant figures, they could ask you, 1, how many significant figures there are, or 2, round or correct the number to 3 sig figs, or 4 sig figs, or 5 sig figs, round to a specific value of sig figs. So they're the 2 types of questions that you could get. The most common is number 2. So when you're doing a question about measurement and say it's 4.59 meters, they might ask for it to be to 1 significant figure. And so then you'd have to deal with the 4, round it up to a 5. So it'd be 5 meters, correct to 1 significant figure. So let's have a go at doing some examples. So it says, write correct to 3 significant figures. So that means we want 3 place values and we'll write the rest as zeros. So when we're looking at our 3 significant figures, we have to consider the 4th one. Is it 5 or above? The answer is no, so we can ignore it. We don't have to round up our 3, and we write 1, 5, 3 and replace the rest with zeros. The next question, write correct to 2 significant figures. So remember, we do not count any zeros before numbers. So we do not count those zeros. And so the first 2 significant figures would be 6 and 5. Remember, we do have to round up, and because this third number is above 5 or above, we round up the second number, which is 5. So answer will be 0.00066. So we do not count the zeros as significant figures, but we need to keep them in our answer to hold the place value, because otherwise it changes the number completely.